If you ever see a power supply branded with thermal take, don't buy it. Okay, you might have heard whispers online of thermal take just being terrible at making power supplies. I know I have, and I bought one anyways, and I deeply regret it. So this story starts off with me wanting to build a new computer. I really like computers, I always have. When I was a young kid, I liked tinkering with them, overclocking them, etc. I'm not the best at computers, but I'm decent. So since the 4090 came out, and it was an insanely powerful card with an insane price tag, unfortunately, I wanted to get a 4090 and a 7950X Ryzen, because I had a Threadripper previously, and that CPU is terrible. They stopped supporting it after like a year, and the BIOS literally didn't work for anything. Don't buy a Threadripper either, okay? It's a bad idea. Just don't. But since I live near a Micro Center, I decided to get my parts from there because in-store shopping is just kind of more fun with PC parts. So I went to Micro Center, I got the 4090 and I got the 7950X, and I also needed a power supply. Now, the 4090 got a new connector with this generation that is a completely unique power supply cable. It has a data cable on one end for the GPU and a data cable on the other end for the power supply so they can communicate. I don't know the whole details, but that's basically the gist of it. So I asked one of the guys at Micro Center, hey, is there a power supply that has this connector? Because I wanted it to be as compatible as possible with the new card I'm getting because, you know, it'd be nicer than having to use extensions that catch on fire. And he tells me there's only two in stock. A thermal take with 1300 watts and a thermal take with 1000 watts. Now, I've heard how bad thermal take can be. So I get everything in Micro Center, I check out, I drive home, and I build the computer, and everything's working flawlessly for about 2 months. And right after the 2-month mark, my PC starts randomly shutting down. It didn't matter what I was doing. I could be watching YouTube, playing a game, just chatting on Discord. My PC would just randomly shut off at random times. There was no rhyme or reason to it. I even turned off all my overclocks to make sure that wasn't the problem. And I say I turned off my overclocks because I've had issues like this before. Because I like overclocking, and that can cause unstable RAM or CPU or whatever, and your PC will just randomly crash. But this crashing was different because the PC would actually just shut off and restart itself. It would also occasionally turn itself on, which should have been a dead giveaway to me that it was the power supply, but I really didn't want it to be a power supply because there was no other power supplies with this cable that I could get. They just didn't exist. So I keep using this PC with it randomly turning off and randomly turning itself on. And then one day it crashes and I try to restart it and my motherboard just keeps giving me different postcodes. Now, if you don't know what these are, these basically tell you where the issue is, right? So if you get a certain code, it means a certain thing. Like postcode 15 on AMD usually means RAM's initializing or RAM's preloading or something along those lines. Basically, the RAM is adjusting to your CPU, trying to make the clocks as optimal as possible for your CPU. And every time I rebooted this system, it would give me a different postcode. And since each postcode means different things, I couldn't diagnose the problem because they were all telling me different things. So I said, okay, the motherboard is probably dead because this is really weird behavior. So I go to Micro Center again and I get a new motherboard. I hot swap it in. Pain in the ass, I hate doing this. And after I hook everything up, it works again. No issues. I get a couple random shutdowns, but I'm like, it's probably just because this is new hardware. Okay, it's not fully tested yet. We'll see what happens in a couple weeks, a couple months. And then one day, I wake up, it's like 8 in the morning. I'm watching some YouTube and I want to play Tarkov. I want to do a scav run on Tarkov. I launch the game and the second I press launch, my PC shuts down completely. So I'm like, okay, no problem. My PC shuts down all the time because it's a hunk of shit. Let me just restart it. It doesn't turn back on. It just doesn't turn back on. The lights are like dimly breathing, like the breathing effect for a keyboard, like dimming up, dimming down. And I'm like, okay, these aren't getting enough power. Something's really wrong. And it's probably the power supply. So after figuring that out in 5 minutes and cursing about it the entire time, I go to Micro Center and I buy a replacement power supply, a 1000 watt ASUS power supply with a wattage meter on it. Now, these are dumb. It is just a gimmick. This is literally in my case. I don't even see this, okay? But it is relevant to the story. After we get all the right cables, I hook everything up to this power supply and I turn it on and it works flawlessly. So my power supply died after about 6 to 8 months of use, okay? That's already bad. What makes this absolutely ridiculous though is the fact that this thing has a wattage meter, right? So I run a benchmark that uses the full system because I wanted to see what I was pulling on that power supply to kill it. Because it's 1300 watts. It had to be a lot to kill it. I run this benchmark. It's only pulling a max of 850 watts. So my computer that doesn't pull more than 850 watts killed a 1300 watt power supply. It was only at 65% capacity at any given time, and it killed it. And then on top of that, I am pretty sure this stupid power supply, this shitty fucking power supply, killed my last motherboard. Because why else would it have died? It was working perfectly fine forever until the random shutdown started happening, and then it wouldn't fucking post. And ever since I got the Asus power supply, my PC doesn't randomly shut off anymore. So it was the thermal take the whole fucking time. So thermal take sold me a shitty fucking power supply that says it's rated to 1300 watts. That's a lie, because clearly 850 fucking killed it. And then they also might have killed one of my motherboards. And I paid $250 for this fucking privilege of them killing my motherboard and selling me a junky power supply. So if you ever see this brand, okay, and you're like, oh, it's kind of cheap, maybe I should get this, don't do it. Do not get a thermal take, okay? You will regret it. I guarantee you. I thought the chatter online was kind of overblown. It's not. It really fucking isn't. But that's been the video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this type of content, please let me know in the comments down below. I like ranting in a more freestyle. It's very fun for me. I also like that these aren't super edited, so I don't have to edit a lot. You know, it's more chill. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe if you're new, like the video, and have a good one.